Now, in keeping with our theme to demonstrate the benefit of women's eloquence, we bring Linda Patton to lead the panel discussion. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Kathleen. And as I introduce my fellow panel members, I would like Curtis to spotlight them with me. The first is Bonita Banducci. Her entrepreneurial experience and her original research for a major tech company on what is the contribution women make could be the strategic advantage in a global marketplace. Inspired and developed her gender competence work. She's worked with companies across the country and teaches gender and engineering in Santa Clara University's graduate engineering program. Her work causes breakthroughs in self-awareness and how different mindsets, cultural lenses, and competencies of people of the full spectrum of gender contribute value. These skills for collaboration and higher collective intelligence promises to fulfill the UN Women's Planet 50-50 project to realize the UN Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. By effective 50-50 representation of men and women at every decision-making table. Welcome, Bonita. It's good to have you back. Our second panelist is Michelle Toney, one of our own, the math and money genius, a former vice president at a regional finance company, headquartered in San Francisco, and now teaches statistics as an adjunct professor at San Francisco State University. She holds a bachelor's degree in mathematics and statistics and a master's degree in organizational management with over 2 decades of experience. She started when she was 2 at data analytics and project management at Fortune 500 companies such as Wells Fargo, Kaiser Permanente, and Visa. Michelle is also an entrepreneur who owns an online travel business and is the co-owner of a mobile bartending service and an independent wine ambassador. Welcome, Michelle. And our third panelist is Tanya Bunger. Monsef, executive coach and global consultant. Tanya's vision, not Hedda, Tanya, thank you. Tanya's vision is a world in which every individual operates from their full potential. As an executive coach and business consultant, she designs leadership training, leads workshops, provides one-on-one coaching, and facilitates conversations for clients around the world with a focus on gender equity. As an internationally recognized leader, she speaks boldly about the power of leading from authenticity as a way to create harmony in the world. She has a background of 25+ years of Silicon Valley high tech, startups, academia, and nonprofit business success in the arenas of finance, marketing, and strategy. She thrives when working with individuals, teams, and organizations to build highly collaborative work environments that achieve high impact results with an emphasis on startups. Let's welcome our 3 panelists to the stage. Ladies, the topic for today is women creating the future. And the first question that I would like to ask you all is, what type of framework would need to be created to take our place and to be more sustainable in that world? Let's start with Bonita.
Thank you, Linda. And in your introduction, you already began to introduce the framework that I am so committed to and so inspired by. UN Women have declared that we have these fabulous 17 sustainable development goals, including ending hunger, the life on land and life in the ocean, and ending poverty, and great education, health and prosperity. Not numerous goals that are just so beautiful, and yet their commitment is, they have said that the only way we're going to get there is through 50-50 partnership of men and women at every decision-making table. And that's my focus. You know, I think there are a number of focuses, and I know Michelle and Tanya have others that they'll be talking about, but my focus is really being expressed about the contributions, what I call the relational competencies, like being a fire preventer, not just a firefighter. I mean, we need firefighters, but preventers actually have a whole systems view and are working at preventing fires. But that's often invisible, and we need to articulate that. So my whole framework has to do with naming these competencies and providing a partnership with men and women because of their understanding of the value of what women bring.
Thank you, Benita. Tanya, how would you address this question?
Well, I love what Benita said, and I think underlying what she said is that we need systems and we need a framework that is going to work for both men and women. And I think, you know, really, and even this year, I think has really shown us that it's no longer about the individual anymore. It's really about the collective, and it's not a zero-sum game. So I think there's, you know, sometimes reluctance that, you know, if I put women in power, like, well, where is it going to happen? And I think really what we need to understand is that we're all in this together. There are statistics all around the world, both US and the corporate world, on boards, internationally, showing that bringing women into society, having them contribute at a meaningful way, and as Benita said, in really decision-making processes, actually benefits everybody. And so for me, it's really looking at the core systems and frameworks that we have that really were set up by men for various reasons historically, but now need to shift and morph to really invite the presence and leadership of women to come forth.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And that was a great tie-in to Benita's as well, and yet taking it beyond that. Michelle, you've got the money and magic side. What do you say about this framework?
Well, to me, it means more of an initiation. We have to have something to start with when it comes to a framework. And with some type of initiation and understanding what the relationships that Benita and Tanya is talking about, to me, I think that's more of a start. Once we understand what those relationships are, let's understand how to start, where to start with the framework. And once we have an understanding on what that start is, then we can build from it. So for example, when we, as for women who want to understand what men are doing, you know, as far as their status or how to get to making more than 68% or 68 cents of the dollar, we want to make more than that. We have to understand how we should start and work our way to make that framework. Because if we don't have anything to start with, then we won't have anything to work with in the first place. So to me, starting with a relationship, just like Benita and Tanya saying, from that, start with some type of framework and understanding how to get to where those men are, and then work with those relationships with those men. But again, to me, starting something, initiating it, and moving forward, and keep it moving until we get to that framework and get to that goal.
Ladies, anything you want to add to that? We still have a few minutes on this question.
Yeah, I think what Michelle said is really great about, you know, observing men, so to speak. I think one of the things I think that men do really well is they support each other, right? They kind of are tapped into networks. And I think there's a lot that women can do to learn from kind of that kind of idea, right? Like really being fierce advocates for each other, really supporting each other. When a woman reaches out to you and says, hey, you know, could you introduce me somewhere? Like, say yes. I mean, you know, you don't have to jump through hoops. They don't have to be, you know, the best person. I mean, there's all kinds of stats showing that men will apply for jobs if, you know, they have 60% of the qualifications, and women will wait to make sure they have 100 or more. So, you know, really supporting women, I think is one of those ways that we can do that. And to Michelle's point, right, really watching how men historically have done this.
And at least taking that first step. That's kind of where when I say initiating, taking that first step, because as women, most of us kind of sit in the background, watch, instead of just making that leap into the pool. Instead of putting that toe in the pool, put the whole body in there and get wet and see what happens. And then we can go forward on what to do with the framework. So I wanted to add that on there too, Tanya. Go ahead, Bonita, if you have
Bonita?
anything.
Yeah, for me, it's again, articulating, naming the competencies that women bring. What my favorite story is about Carol Bartz at Sun Microsystems in my original research, who said that she was second in command at Sun, and she liked to prevent fires by looking at all the ramifications of a given issue rather than just prioritizing. And for this, she was considered to be not a team player because the men didn't understand what she was doing. And that's where I am an advocate of both men and women understanding this different way of looking at the world, where you're connecting the dots and seeing much more strategic thinking that is being interpreted as being scattered and all over the place, getting into other people's turfs and stalling the action because it's more complex, rather than for the value that it has in anticipating and planning a strategy before things become a fire.
And I love Tanya's comment about the fact that we as women wait, until we know 100% of the job. We won't apply for it. We won't even look at it, much less consider taking it. The other thing I think we do is we wait. We think everyone should know that we're perfect for that job. So we don't raise our hand when they say, who's ready to take this position? And then we're upset because nobody recognized us. And so how, I would ask the question, how do you get around that? But we're actually going to move on to the next question, which is, how are you empowering women to step into leadership in creating that structure and to flourish and thrive while making it happen? Let's start with Michelle.
Well, with me, from my experience, I will give them the tools that I've basically used and I've learned from other people. And some of those skills is those communication skills. Some of us as women, unfortunately, like you said, Linda, are either intimidated or scared to voice our opinion on what we want and what we need. And I think communication, clear, articulate communication, Bonita had mentioned, is key. So to me being empowering, letting people know communication is something that just needs to be done. I mean, regardless if it's written, if it's oral, if it's on a video, something that's clear communication and letting people know this is what we want and this is how we want it. Because just like you said, Linda, yeah, we're sitting back here and we're waiting, but I don't have telepathy. I can't hear what you're thinking in your brain. So as women, we do, again, like I said, plunge into that pool and tell people what we want. It may not, and the communication that we may get back, it may not be something that we want to hear, but at least we voiced our wants and our opinions, so we can always assess on what is given back to us and figure out what we need to move to the next step. So to me, communication is a very powerful thing, and we need to use that to empower ourselves.
Right. Bonita, how about you?
Well, I'll just take the next step, giving you an example. I had a woman in one of my workshops, a few-hour workshop, and then afterwards she wanted to get a coaching session because her boss at a very big high-tech firm had delineated 5 special projects, and she wanted to make sure that she got in charge of one of those projects. So we spent time articulating what it was that she was providing: the fire prevention, the process, the getting in touch with the customer at a very deep level, what I call, customer focus, but it's differently interpreted by others. In any case, after a couple of weeks, I checked in with her to see if she got one of the projects. She was put in charge of all 5 because she was able to articulate what it was that she could bring. And I had another example, the same thing, a woman at a panel I was speaking at and talked about being fire preventers. And she came up to me afterwards and she said, just last week, my boss said he never hears about my projects. And I realized I'm a fire preventer. So he doesn't see what's going on. I have to tell him. I have to point it out to him. So that's my way of working with it.
Okay. And Tanya, thank you, Bonita.
Yeah.
Tanya.
So I'm looking at it actually on a two-pronged approach. I think individually, you know, as women, we have a lot of beliefs that we've been told. Those could be cultural constructs. They could be things from your religion. They could be things from your country, you know, your family. It could be or education. It could be all different ways that you did that. And so I'm really supporting women in really shattering the belief systems that are holding them back, and allowing them to see a new way of leading and being in the world that really is empowering. A lot of that stems around worth and kind of, am I really worthy of that job? Or, you know, can I really do it? Those kinds of things. The second thing that I think is really important, and I talked about it a little bit in the first question, is working on collective impact. And I think oftentimes we are all individually working alone. There's several people from Maharashtra on the call. I was working in Maharashtra for the last, I don't know, maybe two years on a Gates Foundation project where we did a collective impact project where we brought women together and asked what would be possible if, instead of you focusing on your individual project or your company, what if you could collectively do something that's greater than individually? What could you accomplish that's greater than? And for me, I'm convinced now that this is the new model going forward. And for me, that's really how I'm empowering women, is to build these collectives of women working together, and in partnership with men. It's not just women. Really seeing what's possible in working in partnership on a larger scale.
Benita, you look like you have a response to Tanya.
No, I agree with her completely. I agree with her completely, and that the ability to see what's the opportunity is for us to be working with men as well. And I am so impressed at how the research shows that I love Carnegie Mellon and MIT have done this research on collective intelligence. And what does a group provide? What is it about a group that provides a higher collective intelligence for complex problem solving? They were surprised to find it was the number of women in the group determined how high a collective intelligence there was. And they said it was because they read the mind through the eyes and they took turns. Well, I think it has a lot to do with the things that we're all talking about. These relational competencies, the confidence to work together and support each other, not just support, but like adamantly support each other. So that's what I wanted to add.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Michelle, any last comments on this? Oh, I'm sorry, Tanya, go
No, I
ahead.
was going to just add to Benita, like, to me, it's even not just support, it's like almost sponsoring, right? It's like really being intentional to not just say, oh yeah, Benita's great, but like really making a stand that I'm going to support Benita or whoever it is that I'm working with.
Michelle, any last comments on this question?
No, I was going to say it is imperative to have those relationships. So when it is time to have that sponsor to come and support you and to bat for you, it's well needed. I mean, I had an example earlier today that I met. I've known a woman for about 3 or 4 years, and I had reached out to her for a favor, and within a minute, she started talking to one of her colleagues about a need that I'm seeking. So again, those communications, those relationships, it is very imperative to have, like you said, a sponsor. I love that word, a sponsor, to, you know, bat for you and support you on what you need. So I totally agree with the two ladies.
Okay, fantastic. Now what we're going to do is ask each individual one question, and they get to answer it to the fullest extent of their capability. So we're going to start with Tanya. And your question was, what has your experience taught you about the unique contribution that women can make in creating the future?
Thank you, Linda. So about 15 years ago, I started working in global leadership, specifically around women and empowering women around the world. And I've worked in the last 15 years, probably with about women from 50 countries. And, you know, I'm a first generation American. I come from an immigrant background. But I was raised in the US. And I used to think that, well, what do I have in common with, somebody who, lives, I don't know, in Nigeria or Rwanda or wherever it is. And what I've come to realize is that that we're all the same, right? That, we have a unique competency, to use Benita's word, that we bring, a unique contribution that we have in the world. But ultimately, we all have the capacity to dream, to have a vision, and to bring our unique talent and gift forth in the world. And it's not just the possibility. To me, it's like an imperative. Like, we need this beautiful mosaic or tapestry of all these unique talents and gifts that people can bring in the world. And I think that women specifically have been undervalued, and we still see it today. Whether to use Michelle's quote about the gender pay gap in the United States, to talk about lack of representation, in government in the United States and also globally. To look at the family structures that are set up to actually have women, be in this role that's very limiting, right, and doesn't allow them to have their full expression. And I think what I've learned is that we all have a dream, and oftentimes women are not even asked that question. So my favorite leadership question I'd love to ask someone, or my favorite question, like networking question, is, what makes you feel alive, or what brings you joy, and what do you care about? And really getting connected with someone on a deeper level. And I think if you can get that at that level, and you can afford people the opportunity to actually ask that question, anything is possible.
Okay, Benita or Michelle, would you like to add on to Tanya's beautiful presentation about what's important in your experience? Anything in your experience that you'd like to bring forward?
I'll add it to what Tanya had mentioned. It's basically my why. Why am I here? What is my purpose? When I say that, it's more of service. What type of service can I provide to the people that I know, who I'm around with, and the new people? Because you may never know who you're going to walk next to or listen to, and may get some information that may help me, that will help you. So to me, your why, your purpose is something is just something that makes you want to get up every day and do, and make sure that whatever service that you provide can help somebody else, so that person can help with somebody else and maybe help you. So again, emphasizing and always thinking about your why, to me, is something that people should really recognize.
And I love the fact that Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, is so key. Of course, my favorite is Leaders Eat Last, and there's a long story behind that. But I think both of those show that sense of, if I know my why, I know my purpose, then I can truly help others. Benita, did you have a last comment?
Well, I'll just say that it was 20 years ago that I created a purpose in life. My purpose was to empower men and women to create a world where every child, woman, and man had the opportunity to live a healthy and productive life, a life of dignity, meaning, and purpose in harmony with nature. Now, that's a long purpose, but that's what's amazing about the sustainability goals, the UN sustainability goals. They're all there. And it was so beautiful for me to have it brought forth in this world, and where gender partnership is the key. So I wanted to share that. And I think it's really important for people to have their purpose in life as a mantra, and to be able to share it.
And I love your purpose in life, Bonita. It's long, and it's fully encompassing, and I think that's what makes it so powerful. And any just last comment, Tanya, on your question?
No, I think, I think we have such a limited view of what we think is possible. And I mean, even myself, right? Like, when I first came into this work, I like, well, I don't have anything in common with, and I think if we can realize that we really only know just a very small percentage of what's really possible. And if we can open our minds up to, you know, listening to other people, to, you know, to listening to experts or people that are really steeped in areas, I think anything is possible.
Great. Thank you so very much. All right, moving on to Michelle, who has the next question. What are 3 important personal financial lessons you want to share with the folks now to prepare for the future, and why?
I'm on mute. Okay,
Yes,
here
you
we
are.
go. Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
The reason why I wanted Linda to ask this question to me, and I'm sure it's going to hit other folks, is because, of course, being a woman and a woman of color, financial literacy wasn't really something that was taught to me growing up. I've seen it, heard it, but never actually been taught to me. So I decided myself that, again, it goes back to the why. My why is to serve and teach people math, make it simple on how to use their money. That's my why. Because me being a math genius, as Linda had mentioned in my intro, I had to apply it to something. And money is something that we all need. We can't get away from it. And math is something we all need. We can't get away with it. So putting those together is something that I wanted to share with people, and to at least teach, or at least let them know these things are important. These 2 things are important. So the 3 things that I've mentioned is invest in yourself first. So when you do have money coming in, regardless of how much it is, it's up to you. You want to invest yourself first with your money, in addition to your time and the resources. And when you invest yourself first, that's when you're able to learn how to empower yourself as a person moving forward. And when I say invest in yourself, again, it could be money, it could be time, it could be resources, but you as a person want to learn and understand from other people. And that's where you as a person, if you're a cook or a teacher, or you want to be an astronaut, sit down and talk to those people. Literally sit down and talk to those people. Ask them questions. They love that. Be a mentee. I'm 50 years old and I'm a mentee, and I am also a mentor. You will always be a mentee until the day you die. So that's why I'm saying invest in your time for yourself, so you can go ahead and reach your why, whatever that why is. So that's 1. When it comes to quality and time, that's something where the literacy comes into play, where you need to understand it for yourself. Because my time and money could be different from the time and money for you. However, we do need to know the basics. We need to know the basics on money, like income versus expenses. We have to understand how to make money in different ways besides just a job, because you're not going to get rich by having a job. There's other ways. Also, you need to understand when you learn your addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, you are applying that to your money in everyday use. So using the quality of time and money is very important out of those 3. And the last one is financial literacy in general. Women, as ourselves, most of the time who have significant others, we allow that significant other take care of the money and the bills. And then unfortunately, some of those significant others may pass away, or they may remove themselves from the home. And the woman is left with the money situation. And again, it's unfortunate that some women have no idea how to manage their money. So with me, I am a person that will help and be able to share with you, again, just the simple stuff. You don't need to understand, you know, the Fortune 500 and the S&P and all that. You just need to understand everyday finances so you can live like no one else, so you can give like no one else in the future. And that's where I am here to at least share with you that in the future, or what we're trying to provide with you a framework, the basic details when it comes to math and money. So those are 3 things that I want to share with you all when it comes to preparing for the future in money, is invest in yourself first. The quality of taking time and money, so you'll understand. And also just just have your basic financial literacy. It will help you in the long run. Although again, you don't need to know all the jargon. Just understanding the basics can get you from where you want to go. And again, although this is kind of like a bonus, like I mentioned before, always sit next to an expert on what you want to do. If you want to become, like I said, an astronaut, you sit next to that astronaut and you talk to that astronaut until you get to what you wanted from that astronaut and probably beyond. So that's my takeaway on this panel. And if Bonita and Tanya want to add on to it, and Linda, go straight ahead.
Actually, we can't because your time is up. But thank you. So that was great. And actually, I think it's one of the things that scares most women is dealing with money. It's something we turn over to our husbands or our boyfriends or whatever very easily, and then we get shocked when they're no longer with us. Bonita, we're going to have you tell a story. You've said that attending the UN World Conference on Women in Beijing was the tipping point for your commitment to women's leadership worldwide. Would you share a story from that still resonates for you today? And when was that conference, by the way?
20 years ago. Actually, no, 25 years ago. We're celebrating an anniversary, but it's 25 years, not 20 years. It was 1995. And I have so many stories from there, but I'm going to share with you the story I shared recently, which I thought wouldn't have that much of an impact, but I think it's really a neat story. And I couldn't believe the response that I got from some friends from Cameroon and Cote d'Ivoire, some friends from Africa, because they do come from a more traditional culture. What happened was I was giving a workshop on how women in business can be partners with women in development for global development, which that alone has a story about the whole, at that time, business was seen as the enemy of development, the exploiter rather than a partner. So that was a big deal. And after I gave the workshop, this young student from China, young woman, came up to me, and they were not allowed in the workshops. That would have been too risky. But she came up to me and she said, "What did you teach? What did you teach?" And I thought, how am I going to teach what I'm teaching just across cultures succinctly to this obviously very enthusiastic young woman? And then I quickly flashed back before we went to the conference. The day before, we went on tour to the hidden city, and there were these two, there were a number of palaces, and the tour guide pointed out these two statues in front of one of the palaces, two lions, and said, "Tell me which one is the mother and which one is the father, or which one is the mother and which one's the woman and which one's the man." And we looked at their faces, and we looked at, couldn't figure it out. And he said, "Look at their hand, where they have their hands." And one had their hand on the globe, and one had its hand on a baby lion. And so quickly I translated for this young woman. I said, how we see that men, we think traditionally how men go out in the world and solve the world problems, and how women are at home and they do all these many things for the families, and they're doing so many different things at once for the family. And she said, "Yes." I said, "Well, I'm teaching that in today's world, when we're becoming more interconnected and more like a family, we need women's thinking on the world problems." And she looked up in the sky and she said, "This is new thinking. I've never thought like this before." And it was so amazing. And then telling this story with my friends from Cameroon, again, the women and the men, their jaws had dropped, because it's so traditional that the women stay in the kitchen. That's where the domain is, even though they're also bringing water and planting food and so many other different things, and obviously taking care of the children. But that idea of being able to see that that was breaking a mindset like that, just telling that story. So I'm telling it more often now, and it's great to tell it to you now.
Okay, thank you, Bonita. Tanya?
Can I add one more thing? Because
absolutely.
Actually, in terms of the framework I talked about and naming the relational competencies, a lot of people say, oh, well, women bring to business is caring. And I was on a panel last week where one of the women leaders said, we bring caring. And to me, this is an example of often the traditional way of seeing caring is it's from the house, it's from family, it's not professional. But to be able to turn that into language that shows that it's systems thinking, it's fire prevention, it's so many different things that that's the way of shifting the mindset from this is a family thing to this is definitely professional, definitely political, etc. Okay, thank you.
and it's sort of interesting because the feminine way of leading is influential, and so it's collaboration, community, cooperation, creativity, those kinds of things. But when we look at what the woman does at home, I mean, she's a household engineer, and she has so many of the same positions that you'd have in a business, but we don't often see that way. Ladies, I'd like to thank you so very much for your contribution to the panel. Your insights were impressive, and I want to thank you so very much for being here. We now have 5 minutes to look at the chat and see what questions we might have from our individuals. Vijay says, your inspirational collective effort to bring out women is vital. I work in a male-dominated department, and I felt the same as you said. And for Michelle, oh no, hello, where is it? Michelle, you're perfectly right. I see that all around me, but I learned myself and am better off now. Very true. Carolyn Douglas says there's a mindset towards success and being about to accomplish what you want to do. Okay, any other questions from the group? You can put them in the chat. You have these 3 experts in women's leadership. Ask them whatever you're curious about. Bonita, yes, I answered my interview questions and answered bringing the talents and skills of women. I got the job in 1994.
So good.
Great.
Yeah. Kimmy Avery says, what are your next levels of projects?
Well,
Bonita?
for me, I've been asked to write a curriculum for the Markula Center for Ethics for Santa Clara University, which I'm just really thrilled about, because in the context of fulfilling the Sustainable Development Goals. So I'm really thrilled to be able to do something that I can really share with the world. I'm supposed to be writing a book too, but somehow the Markula Center for Ethics is it's really an honor.
Great, thank you. That is an honor. Tanya.
I'm continuing to do work in delivering programs specifically for women, building communities for women. So I have a couple of different ones. I put one in the chat if someone's interested in hearing more. And then I also teach at Santa Clara University. I teach in the business school, and I'm really trying to look at specifically climate action and how business actually can be leaders in finding solutions and tending to the earth in a way that we haven't done before. And then I also have another program that I'm working on conscientious capitalism, really looking at how do we build leaders who really exemplify bringing their competence, compassion to a workplace.
Okay, Michelle, your next step.
I've actually launched my coaching, financial coaching business. It's called, like I said, Math and Money Makeover, and I call myself the consumer math coach. So I've launched that. And in addition to that, which is the reason why I joined Toastmasters, is I will be a worldwide financial coach, and my help with Linda and Cynthia to get to where I need to go in that venture. So that's my main reason why I'm in Toastmasters, is to jumpstart that. So I would be a worldwide financial coach in the near future, but just launched it. So thank you, Linda. Thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome. And to
Great.
wrap it up, I'm going to give you Carolyn Douglas's comment to us. I love, whoops, just went away. I love that this has been shared. Women have to lift each other and let go of competitiveness and be more collaborative. Please consider what we need to teach our daughters, like Greta Thunberg, to propel them to carry on what you start. Thank you for an excellent presentation. And Curtis says, I always find these discussions inspirational because various social groups have their own battles. And it's great to hear how leaders in these various groups progress their causes. While the topic was specific to women today, it can be applied to many other groups. Thank you. And I have one more and I have just a little bit of time left. What should we include in education to ensure that the next generation boys to men practice equality with girls to women on a regular practice? Give me one. We're at the yellow. Benita, one thing that we should educate them on.
We should educate them on being able to play angel's advocate as well as devil's advocate.
Okay.
I've had people leave engineering and leave their companies and leave engineering because of devil's advocate, whereas women, the more relational people, which can include men, like to build ideas and create, and that's the collaboration we keep talking about, but we don't realize how devil's advocate can kill that off, and there are other means.
Okay, Tanya,
I think
one thing to teach them.
I think the best thing is by example. So for those of you that are men, or have brothers, is to actually show them what's possible. I think leading by example is the easiest.
Okay, and Michelle, one quick thing.
Men should teach their wives, daughters, anybody from the family, and their co-workers who are women. Same thing. Just teach them. Share the
All right.
love.
Thank you all so very, very much. Can we have a round of applause for our panelists? Thank you, ladies. This has been delightful, and I so appreciate your time.